So we are back for another episode today of the Red Line Podcast with Shane, your main host. And today we've got Luke Shalom. And we have been trying to put together this podcast now for a couple of weeks now. I've been off and on. He's been off and on. It's been quite hard to read, but we're finally here. We're finally going to bring some content around content. I'll hand it over to Luke to make an introduction, and then we'll crack right on and get into the red line zone. So, Luke, I'll hand it over to you. Tell us about yourself.
Shane, thank you so much for having me on the show. Been really excited to get on this, probably for last couple of months. I believe that we first started chatting, I was actually trying to prospect you with business, and that's actually how that started. Chat. Yeah, so my name is Luke Shalom. I'm a LinkedIn creator. I build and monetize audiences for seven-figure agency founders. We do that through the means of content and helping them to implement social selling systems, to turn that engagement into book sales meetings. On LinkedIn, I post everything from about personal branding all the way through to building social selling systems, all the way through to building offers, anything that's going to help you to make that sweet, sweet internet money. And I'm from a sales background. I have probably had the biggest hodgepodge of jobs out of anybody I know. My CV's a car crash. I've been in recruitment. I've been in AI tech sales. I've ran sales processes for seven-figure content marketing agencies. I've been fired before. You know what? It's going okay. And we scaled up Bro Solo to a 5-figure run rate in 8 weeks, pushing
Wow.
now to send it to the moon. Coming into this next quarter and getting some awesome results for our clients. And I'm really excited to be on the show. I hope that was an okay elevator pitch. I've never had to do that before.
And I fucking love it. I absolutely love it. No, that's what we want to hear, because sales is never a linear path. I think career growth is it's just always up and down. Even for me, I got into sales after being in security. I had just got out of, this will be in another episode, but I just got out of prison after 3 years, and I came to the UK. My family, they had one eyebrow raised. Everybody was looking at me very differently, and I needed to put down very, very quickly. So my uncle helped me get a security job. I was working 15-hour shifts, 4-hour commute to and from London, from total opposite side of West London to Canary Wharf, East London. And those are on the Piccadilly line. Took forever. I was taking, what is it in this country, NyQuil or Night Nurse?
Maybe night nurse. Is that to knock you out?
Yeah. So I'd get home at 8, 9 in the morning, and then knock out take a half a bottle of NyQuil or Night Nurse, sleep till about, in and out till about 2 or 3, and then have to make the journey again back to work. And then fast forward, the next 6, 7 years was completely up and down, from financial sales to legal and compliance sales to semiconductor sales, which I sucked at. And then I failed at that, was about to get fired, and then went into webinar sales, and that's when I hit the fucking jackpot. And that was it for me. After that, I was king dingaling. My shit swang the furthest. I knew what I was doing. I was hitting targets. I was at the CEO dinners. It was great. But the adversity of failure, I look at it as a new term I'm dubbing accelerated learning, because without those failures, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be where you are today. So on that note, some of these failures that you went through, I'm sure they'll probably be very significant. And what would you say is the biggest failure you went through since becoming an entrepreneur, or even before, has helped define who you are today?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's probably too many to count in regards to
There you
failures.
go. You don't have a
The
stopwatch.
I'd say the one in regards to selling that really stung the most was I worked for a tech platform. I think it was coming up to, it was 2 years ago. I was there for a year. I absolutely loved the job. The technology was incredible. It was a machine learning platform. All of the stuff, the people that I worked with at the company were complete players. Being able to be coached by some of I think some of the most intelligent best salespeople I'd ever really had the pleasure of being in the same room with, and it was my first ever like 360 sales role.
Okay.
And it was so tough. Like you had to basically fix like the platform, make sure that you were handling all of the customer experience, you were being the CX for the whole book of business because there was an interim time of these webinar publishers coming into the business and signing up, where you had to like nurture those leads until you could hand them across to like customer success team. But then you were also having to like prospect for your book of business and jump on discovery calls and close calls as well. So it was like, right, it was like customer experience role, account manager role, and a sales role all rolled into one. And bro, like, I found it so hard. I didn't know a thing about sales psychology. I didn't even know what Sandler was or any of this stuff. Or like, I didn't have an effing clue, mate. And long story short, like I was working like so hard, like I was probably like working like 60 to 70-hour weeks. And I literally was making like what commission, maybe like less than grand a month at that point, and like on
Wow.
like 30K a year. And it was just
I know that feeling.
diabolical. And I got to the end of the last quarter, like I missed my quote for the last quarter in the year, the minimum, and like the managing director like just like basically sat me down and like just like, how do you think it's going? And I was just like, bro, like I'm trying so hard and I'm like not managing it. Bro, like it really hit me like in this meeting where I got presented this pip, and my sales leader there, the managing director of the company was there for like the UK portion. I literally felt so fucking angry, like with myself. Like, I couldn't get this, bro. I literally like teared up, like in frustration.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know, when you've hit that wall with exhaustion where you've given it like
Mhm.
everything, I had nothing left. I was just like,
Yeah.
and now I've had to like do like double. Do you know what I mean? Like the double for the KPIs and all this sort of stuff. And I was just like,
Yep.
I don't know if I can like I'm actually going to do this, but I get after it. I tried to like fulfill the terms of the PIP. I managed to like get like halfway through the pick and was hitting the KPIs. It was in the direction, but then like I missed like a couple of weeks worth of like, you know, like KPIs of booking something. Like I don't know how many discovery calls a week it was. It was like four disco calls a week or something
Yeah.
minimum. And mate, I just was just like sunk cost at this point. It's thinking, right, I can career on doing 70-hour work weeks to potentially recover myself from this pit in the next 4 weeks. And it just diabolically hard and
Yeah.
just damaging my health. Like depression and all that anxiety was like through the roof during this time period. Or I just thought, well, I could have a clean break, quit, just see what happens. I know I'm a good at interviews, so I'll get another job. So I just handed my notice in, mate, essentially. And I was so gutted because I loved the job and it felt like a massive failure at the time. Like I always describe myself as somebody who's like, up to that point, it's like, I'm never going to quit on anything. Like I'll just keep going and going and going.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I got another job, like literally in 3 weeks as an enterprise sales rep, at a, um, internal, yeah, like an internal communications digital office intranet workspace, called Oak. And that was really good. Like, I'd met a manager at the time who invested in like my learnings, like as a young salesperson. Like they put me through like the first ever like Sandler training that I ever had. I finally learned like about sales psychology. I finally
Mhm.
learned how to run a discovery call. I finally learned what it took to actually book meetings. And like a couple of months in, like it was hitting like, yeah, like I was hitting like more than like 100% of like the quota target for like SDRs. And then I hit like, I think I booked the most amount of meets they'd ever had in a month out of any of their sales teams. So like,
Wow.
I don't mean that as a flex. I just mean like in life, if you don't know how to do something, and you've got the right attitude, often it's just like a lack of knowledge or
Yep.
like a lack of understanding. And once you have that mentor or peers or somebody who's going to actually like invest in your like, I guess, your self education and like helping to take those first steps to take you from where you are now to where you could be. It's like start that curve of exponential growth, which is why I've always been such a massive advocate for like working with coaches or like paying for like coaches,
Yep.
because it unlocks performance. And that for me is where I finally realized that selling comes down to like two things. Like it comes down to like the mindset of like having a growth mindset and saying like, hey, no matter how many times that like I fail, if I pivot, I know that like this no that I'm hearing right now with this prospect hey, there's an abundance of other people out there who are going to be interested, who are going to be wanting to buy from me, and I'll just go and find that business and keep on going. And secondly, you can only control your activities. I can only control the amount of messages that I send, the amount of calls that I'm
Mhm.
jumping on, how deep I go in discovery, like how I run those discovery calls, how I put together those proposals in a way which is bespoke to each and every prospect, which is going to show this to be a painkiller rather than a nice to have. I can control those things. I can control my mindset and I can control my actions. And when my mindset finally lined up with like a little bit more with my actions and my like the skills that were needed for the role, it really started a love for selling. Because before that, I was thinking, oh, it's another career that I just suck at. And now I absolutely love it. I built a whole business around it. So it's like, yeah, that was my biggest failure, quitting. And the best job I ever had today.
I
Well, the
think,
best
look,
selling role.
I think a lot of people have to go through that phase and experience the kind of shock that you go through when you actually make the decision. Because when you build up the energy and you muster up that courage to say, I'm going to send the email, I resign, that feels great. But then as soon as you push send and it's done,
Yeah.
then you know it's real. And then life really hits you. And I remember it vividly to this day. There was my head of marketing director. Her name was Anetta. She ran the webinar division and had just got a call the day before from a client from a company called, what was it, Inflow Control. He was the chief commercial officer. I'd been working to get this deal in for about 2.5 years, right? 2.5 years. And this company was doing bits, like they were going places. They were doing really, really well. And the first webinar he did, he expected something good to happen because he wanted a fruitful discussion. And a couple of weeks into the campaign, he started to question the registrations of the webinar that were being produced. And rightfully so, he found out that some of them were fictitious. Some of them were being created by telemarketers in India that weren't part of a quote unquote database that we had them subscribe to. And when he found that out, he called me up and he goes, you know what, Shane, you're a fucking liar. You're a
Whoa.
prick. You're a liar. You fucking sold me a dodgy product. It doesn't work. Your team are fucking liars. And I had just,
Jesus.
yeah, that was a point. I just brought my wife from Morocco. Like she just got a visa. She came here. We were at the mall. I was actually buying her makeup and he was having that conversation with me. And I would just felt so shit. I was like, look, I have nothing to say. My team, I'm told, I'm the sales guy. I'm told our database has this, our audience has this. We're able to do this. That's what I sold you. With the delivery element, I really, really apologize that this is how you feel. Is there anything you do? I want my fucking money back. I was like, well, you can't have your money back. You know how business is. You can't have your money back.
Yeah.
However, let me go have a chat. And I asked them, and they said, well, maybe it's your client's webinar. The content wasn't good. And that was always the fucking excuse. Your client's content sucks or your client's product is not selling. Okay, well, they just raised X amount of money and they just signed 300 customers. So why the hell, how did that happen if it doesn't work? Long story short, I've wrote her a really, really, I wrote her a really, really horrible email and then wrote to my manager. He he kept trying to stop me from quitting for weeks, months on end, even during the pandemic, because it happened. And eventually I decided, look, this team is garbage. You are garbage. I resign effective today. Do not ask me to reconsider. I do not want any salary raise. I am done. And then
Yeah.
even boss of that, so the boss of the bosses, the number 2 from the CEO, he messaged me and he said, mate, I don't blame you.
What the sea level when
Yeah,
get
he
out of it,
said,
mate. Running.
yep, he said, I don't blame you. It's a fucking shit show. I wish you the best of luck. I know you'll make it. Within 3 weeks, I did 20K in revenue. Why the fuck is this thing? This tool keeps coming up. 20K in revenue, broke 50K in a couple of months after that. The following year,
Nice.
after that, we
It's
did,
for your own business.
yeah, we did £500,000 the second year.
Yeah, that's dope. That's
Yeah,
class.
we were
What was that? Was
we
that profit or revenue, if you don't mind me
so that
asking?
was gross revenue. Gross revenue, net revenue was 51%. And on our financial second year, we ran an 82% gross profit
Mm.
and that 51% net. And then our business experienced 444, exactly 444% growth from 0 to 15 people, from 0 to 11 clients. Like it just went very, very quickly, but it was all from the referral network that we had built. But I wanted to ask you a question on the failure thing, and I want to jump into something else about how you progress from that. Um, what were you're in content now. What were you doing to be the biggest meeting booker on the team? What can our audience, people who are actually SDRs, booking meetings, how can they get the edge right now when it's so saturated? The market is tough. Like you got to cut through noise. How did you do it? And then what would one suggestion you'd give to the audience that is listening?
I think my approach has changed somewhat, but I can tell you what I was doing initially, and then what I would do now to turbocharge it.
Okay.
Okay, so what I was initially doing was like I was just posting more on on LinkedIn, just around my own interests. I think that will sort of help to like generate like more top of funnel interest to my profile. But then it was really just as simple as I was just doing a huge amount of focus activity on like target accounts that I was going after, and then I was implementing, sorry, something like the Justin Michael techniques, like running
Mhm.
triples, like connecting
Yeah.
with them on LinkedIn, sending a message, like endorsing them for a skill, and then like sending them an email being like, send them an email, giving them a go style, and then like hanging up. Like just running like basically like JMM sequences essentially, and just
Mhm.
doing a lot more activity not than the rest of the team, but maybe just focusing on more on like LinkedIn. And then I just
Mhm.
started to get more like traction. And then when you've got more
Mhm.
traction, booking a lot more meetings, you actually just get a lot more confident and I think a bit more bullish to ask more probing questions in DMs. And when you can get to the sort of the goal behind the goal and like the pay like in the DM, like relatively fast rather than skate around it and have those conversations disappear into nothingness, then I think you can
Mhm.
book the meeting faster. But what would I do now to turbocharge that? So what I do at the moment is it's been a bit quieter in summer, to be fair. Like I'm only booking probably about like 3 to 4 like disco calls a week now
Mhm.
in the summertime. But prior to this, I was doing around like 8 to 10 a week. What would I do to turbocharge it? If I was an SDR, I would be performing a like a hyper focused targeting exercise. This to do with what I do with my partners to help them to generate these inbounds from LinkedIn, right? What does that look like? I want to map out the ideal client persona for the product that I am like an SDR, like a rep for. I want to learn who is this person that I'm like going to be writing this content for. Are they like a chief revenue officer? Like, what is the revenue of these companies? What is the tech stack of these organizations? What tools maybe they're currently using? Um, like what is the headcount of these organizations? But then I want to go one step further, like into what are like the pains they are experiencing at this point in time that that the product that I sell might resolve. What are their
How do you
goals?
find this pain? Sorry to jump in on that part
Yeah,
because a lot of
okay.
people talk about pain. How do you find out the pain of those companies in LinkedIn?
Yeah, great question. I guess that would come down to like what data you would have internally on like if you were running like with a tool like a Gong or like if you were using like our AI call recording software, you'd be able to
Mhm.
look up what were the classic pain points that other SDRs had discovered before and discovery called, and that would give you a really good conception of what challenges that ICP is currently dealing with. So
Mhm.
like once I had a clear view of like what the goals were, the business goals, the personal goals from like this discovery call info, or even just coffee chats with customers, because people, or if you could offer them something in return, like an Amazon voucher or something, then
Mhm.
maybe not with
Mhm.
a CRO, but like that's the way you can get somebody on a call. Is
Mhm.
when you have a clear idea of who you're writing this content for, what does that look like as a content strategy? I would start to break down 3 times a week lead generation posts and have take one of these pains, one of these opportunities, one of these desires of this ideal client persona. I would inject my expertise as the solution. This could be like product expertise. This could be like maybe like methodology expertise, which is what your product is sort of situated in of its wider ecosystem.
Hmm.
So what I mean by this is it could be like if I was selling a if I was selling if I had a sales outsourcing company, I was trying to sell Latin American sales talent to US sales leaders. An example of me injecting my expertise as a solution could be as simple as like, hey, like, did you know that you can increase revenue without increasing headcount? And then like basically detail like how like outsourcing is going to allow them to overcome these pain points they have. But then if I wanted to situate their content in the wider ecosystem, I might actually tell them like how could they how could they drive like bigger deal sizes with continuous qualification and like maybe pull in like wider content colors into that as well. So we don't always have to pick the product. So that's what I would essentially do as far as a content strategy. I would ship those out 3 times a week. I would start to build an engagement list of peers, people who are going to support your content, prospects, people in the ICP, these CROs, for example, we're talking about, and these influencers, people who are in the sales space or in similar spaces that your business is in, where you could leverage their traffic with thoughtful comments to drive back eyes to your profile. Over a period of time, what I expect to see is within 4 weeks, you're going to start to get some engagement. It could take 2 months, but you're going to start to get likes. You're going to start to get comments. You're going to start to get views. Then what I would do is I would start to implement like the social selling system that I'm actually helping like CXOs like turn this engagement to meetings. Is like we're firing on those action signals, the views, the comments, the likes, and then we're opening up DM conversations on LinkedIn with people that fit our ideal client persona. And then we want to open this out with like those spin selling questions. Like, hey,
Hmm.
thanks for the like. How's life? And then we want to go down like, hey, like, how's it for me? It might look like, how's it going building the audience? Or like, how's things like at X?
Yeah.
What are you focused on in Q2? But then just at the moment where we feel like we're getting a bit too pushy and the conversation's dried up, we just want to stay curious about their world and profile. Maybe bringing in something we've seen in their profile, reset the thread and say
Hmm.
like, "Hey, I saw you did X, Y, Z in university. That's really interesting. What drove that change?" And then when they get them talking again, I would flip back round into running spin questions again until I get to the point where I know what their goal is, what the goal behind the goal is. And then I just inject myself as a solution. Hey, if I can help you do X, Y, Z, negative like impact statement, would you be open to exploring this on a call? And then I'll book the meeting. That's how I book meetings on LinkedIn content.
Mate, that's very different from how I do it, and I love it. I think it's fantastic because,
Try it,
again,
mate. You know, it'll absolutely explode your pipeline. In fact, like if it doesn't work, mate, like I might
I
as well
think
quit
you
and
know
give
I'm a
up.
little, and it's like this is the thing. This is the reason why I think it's so valuable to have people like yourself on the show on the pod is because some people don't know this. Like honestly, I went to every company I went to, there was no sales training ever. I had to beg and beg and beg, and they still didn't give it. I had to take it on myself. Like I was learning how to sell from Grant Cardone's videos.
So we love Greg Cardone.
Victor,
10x.
Victor Antonio, like Tony Robbins, stuff like that is what. And these are these I was learning how to sell, and then it didn't happen until no, it was the last year I sold my biggest deal with Leica Microsystems, a huge deal with Leica Microsystems. And that deal gave me the confidence to go start my own company. And then when I started my own company, the first thing I did was invested in 12 months of Sandler training. It was the best decision I made. Um,
Samantha Jenner. What's it? Is that what was the sales training? Sorry.
Sandler training. I
Oh,
did Sandler.
Stanley. Yeah. Yeah, got it.
Yes, I used the guy for anybody who's in the London area. I used the guy called Chris Janelli. He owns his managing director, and he did a fantastic job. What was it? Within 5 weeks, closed our first 10 grand deal.
That's
Just from
amazing.
just from a simple question, like typically before I would sell, it would be based on the webinar's price, which was 10,500, and you could give a discount of what was it, 5 grand, and give it for 5,500. And I always thought people bought on price, so I was just like, "Fuck it, just take it for 5,500. Take 4 of them if you want." I didn't really care, and eventually I'd start to realize the commissions were starting to get lower and lower. But then when I increased the price, it got better. But the point I'm making is, until I knew how to sell an advanced level or as a professional, to understand psychology, to understand other ways of navigating the path, and then incorporating JMM. I also use Ryan Reisert's bucket. There's a ton of other different methodologies that I combine into one, along with the technology that I use. But again, it's the experience, the skill set, and the know-how. So one thing I can do fantastically well is I've booked T5 meetings this month by myself on
It's great.
Ballroom with Apollo and Cloudlead. And that's because I've got verified data and everything. However, there is no LinkedIn element on there. There's all the phone cold calling, just cold calling. So I am trying to build my presence on LinkedIn. And if I knew other ways of getting in front of people and then creating that engagement through LinkedIn as a means, because I don't know, I'm not able to experience those results. And with someone like you sharing that, it really does make a difference, because I think people.
We should have a conversation after this call.
We will. I'm sure we'll be on it. And then that leads me on to the next thing, though. That leads me on to the next thing, because your failures through your careers, your failures through learning, the challenges and obstacles you came up against have created an incredibly powerful human being that can leverage social and is unstoppable in terms of your presence. If anybody looks at him on Luke, he's got 30,000 followers. Younger guy, good looking handsome man. He's got a girlfriend. So you can't take anybody out. Sorry to ruin that for you, but I value relationships. But on that front, mate, like the learning from the failures, from all of that, what did those failures help you learn? And those learnings, how does it define you today?
Yeah, man, I think it's a really interesting one. It's stuff that like, yeah, like failing at sales, like failing at that like company I was in. Yeah, like I was gutted, but like at the same time, like things could always be worse, man. Like you mentioned to me there about like some of your past, like, so I might as well be candid. Like me, like I hit burnout like really badly, like after university. Like I literally like ended up in hospital. Like I was burning the candle at both
Wow.
ends. Like I was in hospital for like a couple of months. I was
Really?
Yeah, I was burning the candle at both ends. That's as much as I can probably say about that. I didn't have a very healthy lifestyle for many years while I was at
Yeah.
university, just trying to like study
Enjoy.
for my degree. I
Yeah.
just got way out of hand. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I had a rock bottom when I was like 22 years old. Like I was in debt. Like my girlfriend left me. I lost all of my friends. Like it was ruthless, mate. But at the same time, anything that came after that point, I was lucky to be alive, frankly. That's what the doctors told me. So like anything up from that point was an added bonus. Like even at the points where like I've had points where I'm like, yo, like I'm not gonna hit my target this quarter. And then I'm just thinking like, yeah, well, it's not really anything in comparison to like what came before. And it's just the fuel that keeps you moving forwards, man. Like
It is.
when you can see yourself go from like flat out like rock bottom with like nothing left to lose, anything else is just an added bonus. And that's what
It
people, I think a lot of people don't get. Like a lot of people have never been tested in this life. A lot of people have never lost like everything. And I think
is.
when you lose everything, there's this great quote from Scott Leeds that he said the other day. He's like, there is this immediacy that comes to life where you know what it's like to not like not have that certainty over like yourself, over like your finances, over even like friendship circle. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I think I've always hit life with a lot like more intensity, that 10x sort of Grand Cardone intensity.
Yeah.
I was 22 because nothing is promised at the end of the day. It can all go in the blink of an eye. And like, if you're not playing full out on the field, swinging the bat as far as you can fucking go, like, what are you even doing? And that's my personal mantra. Whether that is toxic, whether that is like,
It's absolutely right. It's absolutely right.
yeah,
It's absolutely right. You are absolutely spot on. And even now, I'm going. So, like, I've been through tons of adversity, mate. Tons of adversity. I left. So, at the age of 13, moved from UK. My whole family moved to America. Got settled there. Was a good kid. Got met up with the wrong kids. Got involved in all kinds of drugs. Uh, Landed an opiate addiction in New Jersey, which is the biggest opiate epidemic going right now. So there were
wow,
like these painkillers that The doctors prescribed me for a leg surgery. I got to those. I went on heroin. I was an intravenous drug user of heroin from a girl who introduced that to me. In and out of jail 5 times, 3 rehabs, prison for 3.5 years, 4.5 years, sentenced for a racketeering charge. Came out, had to go through everything for the past 8, 9, 10 years here. Family deceiving me. My brother died when I was 24. He was 20. Coming here and family deceiving, stabbing you, wishing you fail, wanting you to fall on your face. All of that stuff happened. Got engaged. That didn't work out. And then just now recently, I've just told you, my wife has kidnapped my child. My daughter's not with me. I am effectively homeless, even though I'm living in luxury right now in a huge Airbnb. But
That is a very nice Airbnb.
it's a very nice one. So CEO life, right? But that's happening. One of my employees, he's trying to take me to court because the business went through a downturn. And right now, like, I feel like the entire world is stacked against me. However, I wake up every morning, I still go to the gym, I'm doing my diet plan, I get through it, I hold my head up high because, again, at the end of the day, I'm not dead. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that resilience that I've learned to build up over time has created an unstoppable force. And that is why I'm so strong. In some cases, a lot of women tell me I have a very cold heart, just because I'm very numb to a lot of real feelings. I try to mask them away. Adversity is the fucking mother of all builders. It's what you need. I believe it is. Some people can get through without it. So that's how I've got through it. And I do empathize with you completely. And what I wanted to ask you then, because wow, this episode has gone so far. It's already 32 minutes. What would you say? One question I ask all my guests, this is from Marcus Kauke, who was our chairman at Sales Driven. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self, just before life started to get interesting, you're going to go to college, you now have an idea of how business works, what kind of tricks you could do on LinkedIn, or it's going to come out, what one thing would you tell yourself? What one thing would you do differently to change how you approach life today?
I think, like knowing what I know now, if I could go back in time,
and go tell him.
And I've got all my current skills.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I wouldn't try to go for better. I'd try to go for different. I think I would try to take the road less traveled. I think I would have tried to follow my own heart a bit more. I think I got shoehorned into going to university off the back of like what society and what my parents wanted to sort, which is great. I'm very grateful for the learning experience, and like getting a degree was amazing, and it's definitely taught me a lot of things. But for me personally, I think I always knew that I wanted a different life to a lot of people. Like I can never imagine myself like being in like the Fortune 500, like sat behind my desk, like sort of just like, oh, it's another day in paradise. Look, I'm going to get my share options 5 years old, buddy. I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait. Like I've got my second divorce is on the go at the moment, but those share options, elegant, tasty, bro. No, that's never been me. Like I shouldn't have tried to fit into a mold. I should have started a business sooner. I would have started to build on LinkedIn a lot sooner. I would have started to create content around my learning experiences a lot sooner. And I would have committed myself to, actually not doing activities that don't bring you any energy to your life. Like I think for a long amount of time, I was chasing purpose down the rabbit hole of like partying and like through drinking. Yeah. And a lot of the time I was really just trying to find purpose. And that only comes from, I think, learning new skills, going and testing them out in the world and leveling up in real life. And I think if I was to, I know this is a very long-winded answer, but I would just go for being different over better. Like just carve your own path, follow your own curiosity, because that's what I did over the last 12 months. I stopped trying to like do what everybody else was doing, in the sense that like what my friends were doing actively in their lives. I thought that there must be a better way to make money. It was just outside of just trying to climb a ladder that seemed fixed. So I just started
Yeah.
posting on the internet. If I'd have known what I know now, that's what I would do. And then it would have compounded in, I don't know, 10 years to the point where I could have got to this point a lot sooner. I could have been doing what I do now, probably at the age of like 21, but I just didn't believe in myself in the same way at that point.
Well,
Um,
that's what people need
and
to
it-
hear. This is exactly what people need to
yeah,
hear because they don't believe in themselves and they are afraid of what people think. Like even my current situation, I tell you, dealing with it internally is manageable. The thing that becomes hard is the perception of others and how others around you will feel or perceive you when you embark on these journeys or when you do feel uncomfortable about certain things, or even when you do feel too comfortable with those certain things, people will say you're arrogant, you're full of yourself, you're this, you're this, you're this.
yeah,
So
it's
follow your
tough.
heart, follow your gut.
It's an interesting one because at the same time, yeah, like people need to believe in themselves, but do people inherently only believe in themselves once they have chased goals, once they have loved and lost, once they have been knocked down a few pegs, once they realize that actually, like, look, falling off the horse isn't going to necessarily break your back. You can fail on a massive scale and like come back. I think
Yeah.
once you've become a bit more battle hardened, you do just start. I think you become a bit more like risk taking in your approach. Maybe that's maybe when you're like youthful or you maybe haven't like
Mhm.
you haven't had those experiences. You're still on that like well trodden path that everybody else is going for. Like to
Yeah.
go to university, to go and get that grad job because that's what like my parents did, and like and yada yada. Like you don't see these alternative paths before you until you are halfway down that road, looking around at all of these people, thinking, "This ain't for me." Why? But do you know what I mean? Go for like just go for different. Stop trying to just beat everybody in this weird
Yeah.
rat race. It's so
Yep.
because I realized it the other day. Like I realized this really like massive realization. Well, I was just thinking like I know this. I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but it was I'd been making more money than I ever made in my entire life, almost like 7x what I made last year, like something like
Mm.
stupid multiple. And I just realized in that number that it isn't even the money that makes me happy. It is literally just playing the game. It is literally just like
Yep.
winning. It's just building.
Yep.
Like I could literally lose everything tomorrow and I would start a new product and I'd be happy as Larry. The money is just an added addition. As long as I can
Yes.
feed myself, go and do nice things with my girlfriend, like just enjoy the air that I breathe in like maybe another country, like a couple of times a year. That's enough for
Mhm.
me. It's just playing
It
the
is.
game, just living a
Yep.
life that's different from what that main narrative is. And not for the sake of it being different, just because that's for me is like inherently authentic. And that's like what gets me out of bed in the morning. Like,
I'm 100% with you, mate. I'm absolutely 100% with you. And I think you hit the nail on the head. And we've come to the top of the hour, which has been fast. So what I'll do is we'll wrap it up. And if anybody wants to find you, how can they find Luke Shalom on the internet or wherever?
yes. So you can Google Luke Shalom on the internet. I'm so glad that I took down all of my embarrassing YouTube videos. You will no longer find those on the internet. But where you can find me is on LinkedIn. Just type in Luke Shalom. That's SHALOM. If you are a figure agency founder and you're looking to build and monetize your audience on LinkedIn, send me a direct message with Grow to find out if we're a fit for each other. And I have plenty of free content there as well. You can subscribe to my newsletter, Grow Solo Saturday, which is every 2 weeks. And again, it's more internet money making tips for you to build and monetize in the creator economy. Thank you so much for having me on this show, Shane. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this episode coming out.
It's going to be amazing. I think we're going to have to run another one. We didn't have enough time. But if you guys did like the episode, like, share, subscribe, pass it to your friends, give it to your mom, dad, sisters, brothers, cousins, aunts, uncles,
The
distant
dog.
relatives, and the dog. We want you guys to share this because that's how we get more content. But thank you again. Until next week, I will see you soon.